again. It's our pleasure. I think Alan and we have huge collaboration already going on in various hackathons. We have been supporting Matum, and he is himself is a startup founder. They call this Strong Startup, and he really supports other startups how to pitch, funding, all related information. He's like an encyclopedia. You can really reach out to him. He has his own YouTube video. Please follow it. It's wonderful. So without ado, I would like to give it to Alan.
Great, Manoj. Thanks very much for the introduction. That was very kind words. So let me just set up my screen here, and then I'll try to present in about 10 minutes. And after that, then I'll hopefully have a little bit of time for questions. But if not, we can follow up later. All right. Great. Just give me a quick second now. Okay, super. Okay, so we're going to take you through a very basic introduction of startup funding. So we don't have a lot of time to go into great detail, but I want to give you a splash of inspiration of different ideas of how you could potentially get money for your startup if and when you're ready to be able to actually get that money. So that's obviously a very, very important point. So a little bit about me. In 2017, 2018, I actually created my own startup, my first one that failed. We got funding for about $500,000 from a European grant for a research project, which was focused on innovation using augmented reality. You can see the HoloLens here in the image to help support dementia patients with daily tasks at home. So after about a full year of funding, €500,000 focused on the research project, and also me pushing in overlap for about 9 months, trying to create a startup as a spin-off from this university research project. In the end, it failed. I was able to get this big research grant to start that project and to start the company. But in the end, I failed to get any accelerators, to get into any accelerators, to get any other investment, or to really gain any traction for my idea. And in the end, I had to basically drop it, and it was dead. It was a very emotional and difficult time, but I wanted to start off there because failure is really important, and it's good to start with a story, and it's good to admit that, hi, I'm an entrepreneur and I failed. That's a very important thing. So this is me now. So what I do is I work with MSME-BI. It's an entrepreneurship center, one of the largest in Europe, and they fund everything, support entrepreneurs at every stage of the entrepreneurial journey, from the very early stages with education all the way to getting money like a venture capital firm. I'm a startup coach there, and then I also have my own YouTube channel, as Manoj already said, which is aiming to bring as much value as possible to people like you through video-based content. So everything from startup funding all the way to different tools and methods. So I've had experience with about 100 different startups this year already at Unternehmertum, and I have that my own personal experience of using and abusing €500,000 worth of public money and trying to get funding for my startup in the future. So I want to share some quick tips before you even think about startup funding. So to begin with, you need to do these 3 things. This is my recommendation. There's no formula here. You don't have to do these 3 things. Some people don't, and they get very successful, but this is my recommendation. So the first thing you need to do is to validate your problem by talking to customers. I think this is already being done as part of the hackathon today and over the weekend, but it's very important that you talk to your customers at every single point of the way, not about your solution, but about the problem. Is the problem really what you think it is? And is it really as big of a problem as you think and you assume in your head? The second point then is to build a prototype of your solution. So this can be as simple as a storyboard, which explains how a customer uses your product. It can be a digital prototype, which shows what the application of the technology looks like. Or it can be even a physical prototype, a smaller version of what you're trying to build. That's super important because you need that to get feedback. And it goes back to point number 1, which is, again, talking to your customers about your problem. And in step 2, getting feedback on that particular prototype. The third point then is about traction. So it's very, very important that you get feedback on your idea from customers. It's very important that you build a team. So you have to convince other people that they're going to be able to join you. And you also want to be able to maybe develop a pilot if you can. You can get signups, just put up a website, one single page on a website, and explain your idea with a cool video and get people to sign up for early access. Or if you're interested, put in your email address here. That action of getting people to put in their email address is very personal, and you can use that to show investors and to show people of funding, hey, look, we have 500 people signed up and interested, we have 1,000 people, whatever the case may be. And this can also be traction, getting your first customer, even at a small scale. But these three things, so validating the problem, building a prototype, and getting traction, is super, super important even before you think about any money. And why that's important is that in 99% of the cases, you will not get money just for your idea. It's a myth in startups that you have a cool idea, you go to Mr. VC, a venture capitalist, he invests 50 million, and then you go build your idea. Normally, that doesn't happen in that order. Normally, you have to build something, have traction, talk to customers, have something already, and then you show that to people with money, and they say, hey, Alan, that's great. You've built something, you've got some customers. Now I'll give you the 50 million and you can go and become $1 billion company. So this is normally what happens. So this is the structure. I'm going to share these slides, so no need to take notes. And also I'll have extra resources included for everyone. But this is from a really, really great book called, it's pretty much the only book I have found that's valuable on startup funding. It's called The Startup Funding Book, pretty easy name. And Nielsen basically goes through in huge detail with lots of case studies, all the different ways in which people can climb this mountain of startups. It doesn't have to happen with bootstrapping, then friends and family, then public grants, and then accelerators. You can jump from team, so from the idea stage, all the way to an accelerator if your idea is good enough and if you get a little bit of traction. So it's not a linear process, but in the book, he goes through fantastic details. You can see up the top here, very important part, this is the phase. So all of you are pretty much at this phase at the moment. It's just an idea. You will not get money at this particular phase. You need to build your team, you need to build your prototype, and in that, you need to talk to customers. Then you can launch maybe like a test version, a free version, some little pilot. You get some users, and that's usually where the big money comes in. So as soon as you start to get a customer, generate revenue, grow, that's when people really start to say, okay, hold on, this is something interesting. Let's go and invest in this. Okay. So I'm going to take you through a few of these now very quickly, and I have some examples, but of course, afterwards we can connect and I can give you more detail. Okay. So to begin with, very importantly, team and bootstrapping. Bootstrapping just means that you're using your own money to fund your startup. That could be having a little bit of savings, so quitting your job and being able to work on your startup full time. And the important point here is that co-founders are your first investors. They may not give you money, they may, but normally they're investing with their time, they're investing with their energy. And that's a very, very important point. You have to value that, because without them, the idea could actually fail. Typically, this is only at the very, very beginning. And the amount of money you have to invest depends on your idea. It could be zero, it could be €1,000, it could be €50,000. It just depends on how much money you have and how much you can invest. And a really great example of bootstrapping is Basecamp. This is a massive project management software company. They took pretty much no money and they grew a multi-million euro business with no investment. They do have a small amount of investment from Jeff Bezos, which was just a couple of million, which is really nothing. And it was after about 6-7 years that they were already on the market. So this is a really great example that you don't necessarily need funding to succeed. If it's a software, in this case, you can launch your software without any investment, and then you can become a really successful company. And on their website, I'll share a link. They have a list of other companies and startups that have €1 million or more in revenue and have had no funding. So you can see a long list on their website. This is a really inspirational story of these two guys here. So the next one is the 3 Fs. This is friends, families, and fools. So it's a bit of a joke. But the idea here is this is your first real investor. This is you going to mommy and daddy and saying, hey, or I'm going to manage, could you just please give me like €1,000 just to help me out at the very, very beginning. So normally it's a very low amount of money. And the important thing is I have to explain to Manoj, hey, there's a risk here. 9 times out of 10, my startup will not succeed. So it's very important that you realize that you probably won't get this money back. It's not because I'm a bad guy. It's just because it's the numbers, it's the statistics as part of entrepreneurship. You have to try a lot, and sometimes it just doesn't work. Most of the time, it doesn't work. So you have to be really making sure that when you're taking money from friends or family or fools, you need to make sure that you explain to them, look, you may not get this money back, because sometimes this can be a lot of money that you can generate, and you don't want to have a bad relationship with your family or your friends by taking this money. And usually it's only in the very beginning. It's just something to kick you off. It's like, hey, look, I need 5,000 euro in total in order to be able to make sure I can work on this minimum costs for living for the next 3 months. And then if I don't succeed, I'm going to quit. This is kind of the idea here, okay? It could be anything from €1 or 1,000 euro all the way to 100,000 euro. An example here is Temedica from Munich, a very famous digital health startup that are developing different digital apps to support specific patient groups. Like they have one for pelvic floor exercises for women, they have one for obese people, they have one for diabetics, for example, very evidence-based supporting applications. They raised with I think it was 10 or 12 different friends and family, 100,000 euro. They got about 10,000 euro from different friends and family. So don't think that this is just 1,000 euro. If you really, work hard and they probably talked to 100 people and 10 of them said yes. They got 100,000 euro to support them. And then they went on to build their prototype, to build their solution. And now they have 17 million euro worth of funding. And they're one of the biggest startups in digital health space in Germany and in Europe. So this is super, super important that you realize there is a chance here to get money, not just from a VC, but from other people. So now onto crowdfunding. This is a very popular one. So you have here basically 2 different methods. So one is reward. So I invest, I don't know, 100 euro, and then I get early access, for example, to your product or your service, like what Kickstarter does. Or equity. Equity means I will own a little bit of your company. So I give you, say, 1,000 euro, and then I own like 0.01% of your company. If you go big and you make a lot of money, then I get 0.0% of the potential money that you make in the future. Crowd lending is another way. It's like a loan from a bank, except it's not from a bank. It's from a whole load of people, and they all invest. They don't get money related to your company. They just get interest on the loan. And this can happen at multiple stages, and the funding can anywhere be between 1,000 euro up to €1 million in total. An example of crowdfunding from Munich is Black Tea Motorbikes. They launched something like a Kickstarter, but it wasn't on the Kickstarter platform. It was a different platform, and they raised over €500,000 worth of funding in about, I think it was 20 days. So this is not a small amount of money. This is really a lot of money to help build this prototype for the motorbike, an electric motorbike that they were developing. So this is a really, really good way to be able to develop your startup in the very beginning or at different stages. Maybe when you're looking to get your first customers, you need a little bit of boost. So public grants, this is my favorite one. I recommend people to really focus on this. Normally you get a great investment with no equity, which means you don't have to give up part of your company. This is probably the most important source of funding, definitely. I recommend before you even think about founding your company, you use up all the available public grants in India, in Europe. There's lots of different options, and I can give you a list of them as well if you want. Typically it's before you found, so typically that's a condition. You can't get public money if you already founded your company, but there are some exceptions, and usually it's between about not €1, but 1,000 euro up to well over €1 million, but it depends on what the competition is and what the public body is. So it varies a lot, but a huge source of support at the very beginning. Kuazo are a company based in Munich, again, that I know personally. My wife actually studied with Katharina, one of the CEOs here, one of the co-founders. And they played this game with public grants really well. They got funded by a university award, a competition called the TUM Idea Award. TUM is Technical University Munich. They got the Exist funding in Germany, which is a public grant for, I think, about 2 years to help transfer technology from science and research all the way to the market. They got a whole lot of other public grants across Europe. And after that, they founded and got VC funding. So they used up all that free money from the public grants really well. And to date, they have over 3.5 million euro worth of funding. And they got the Medical Value Award and all these other things that they got to be able to support them moving forward. And that's very important that you use up that public money before going forward. Angel investors, then, these are individual investors, not a big venture capital firm, but one person or a collection of several angel investors that are in a small group. And they're not driven just by financial return. They don't want to just get their money back and multiply it by 10. And so I invest 1,000, I expect 10,000, but rather they also are passionate about the topic or passionate about giving back to startups as well. And their value really lies not in the money they give you, but in the experience and in the network. That's the single greatest thing to help you grow your business. And this is normally very early stages, kind of well before you have a kind of customer. So it's high risk normally, and they can invest anywhere from about 100,000 or 150,000 to 2 million. A good example is Calm. Maybe you know this application. It's a very famous one. They had a lot of angel investors. They're now worth over $1 billion in terms of what the company is worth. And they gathered about 140 million euro worth of investment. And in the beginning phases, they were taking like 10,000 euro from angel investors and getting as many angel investors to invest so they could build their product in the very, very, very early stages. So this is a good success story. Venture capital is the one that everyone thinks they need, but 99% of startups are not suitable for. This is a big return on investment that a venture capital is looking to invest. They want to invest $1 million or more, and they expect to get 10 times the return. So your company will grow by 10, and preferably you sell your company to another big corporation for a lot of hundreds and hundreds of millions of euro, and then the venture capital firm will have a small part of your company. So that's how they get their money back. So they invest like $1 million, they expect at least 5-10 million return, which means that you're under a lot of pressure to grow. Very few startups are suitable for this. You really have to be able to have a market that is scalable to hundreds of millions, if not billions of euro or dollars. Normally, they don't invest until market entry. So don't even think about venture capitalists right now. You need to be ready with your product, with your customers, and entering the market next week before they're going to invest. And it's anything from $1 million. I've seen upwards of multiple of billions of euro that have been invested by venture capital firms. Airbnb is a classic example. They recently closed a Series E funding of 1.5 billion. They've raised over about 4.5 billion in total in venture capital funding, and they're worth nearly $50 billion in total. And there's many, many other examples, but they relied heavily on venture capital funding. Finally, then, or one of the last ones is accelerators. This is my recommendation of where to begin with. They're looking similar to venture capitalists. They're looking for startups with big potential. It's a small amount of investment, usually for equity. So they take 5-6% of your company, maybe 10%, depends. Sometimes you don't have to, you can get money like 100,000 euro, but they won't actually take any shares or equity of your company. It depends. This is from very early stage all the way to market ready. It can be no money all the way up to 150,000 euro maximum. So it really depends on the particular program. The Flixbus is a famous example from Munich. They joined the LMU, which is a university in Munich. They joined the accelerator of LMU. They received no equity and no investment actually at all, no money, just a network of that particular program. And of course, they went on to create an amazing company that's done hugely successful across Europe and the world. So that's it. That's everything I wanted to show. It's a very quick one. I went a little bit over time, so I apologize for that. If there is time for questions, please go ahead and ask now. If not, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm also on social media, The Strong Startup. I put out daily content to support startups on TikTok and Instagram and everything. If you want to connect with me, I also just launched a WhatsApp group to support startups and develop a little bit of a community and entrepreneurs. So you can just scan the QR code there and you could join the WhatsApp group and we can have a little chat one-to-one to be able to help you. So now I'll stop talking. Sorry about that. I went a little bit over time.
All fair. Thanks. Thank you very much, Alan. I think that was so good overview, I would say. Oh, Jagdish, you want to say something?
Sure. Now you hear roosters again in my village. But anyway, I mean, thank you so much, Alan. Your wisdom is overflowing now.
Yeah,
so
it was a lot.
Great friend.
I know.
It's a lot. So students who will be thinking like, what is this guy talking about? What is his millions? What is this funding? What is this crowdfunding? Yeah. Don't worry. I mean, since you were in the early beginning, you don't really understand this subject is boring. But trust me, this is the main element when you make a startup. It's all about money. Who will give you money? Where can you start? And where you get support and all these things. And even though Alan is sitting in Europe, he talks in euros. You may not understand in rupees. But ask him connect with him on LinkedIn or WhatsApp or Facebook. Now he's also on TikTok. TikTok is banned in India, but
Oh,
but
unfortunately, sorry, I forgot.
if you connect with him on Facebook, he's regularly making TikTok videos and super helpful. I'm watching them regularly. So now also I think you posted about lab meet and everything, right? These are super inspirational. And thank you so much, Alan. So students, please connect with Alan. So if there are any questions, ask him. He's passionately helping people. Until now, he's not charging. Maybe next year he will charge again.
No
So
charge, no.
make use of his time.
Happy to
Excellent.
help.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Alan.
Great. Thank you very much. I'll stop sharing now. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sure.
Just
Yeah.
quick,
Thank you.
there is quick answer from a question from Harsha and Aditya. Aditya, yes, you can talk to Dare to Start directly in this regard. So we will come back to you as Jagdish already mentioned. We are already in the process of formal collaboration with Unternehmertum, and you will get more.
Yeah, actually, there is no proper way that you can join Unternehmertum or any European institutes because they don't have anything for India. So that's why Unternehmertum approached us that what we can do with India. So I think Aditya, we can talk about it. There's so much news waiting for you guys. Just stay tuned.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's really a lot of opportunities. So definitely contact Dare to Start. We have over 30 programs, and the guys will be able to make the connections for you. So yeah. Great.
One quick question from Harsha. Harsha's question is about uh, what are the tips for you will give startup founders to speed up the process of getting government and public funding, because usually it takes time, like exist.
Yeah, my biggest advice is that you need to do things in parallel. So you need to apply for multiple grants, multiple accelerators, while at the same time, developing with your customers, talking to them. This is the myth of startups, that you just get the money and then you can relax. It's a crazy sprint within a marathon all the time. So my advice is to apply as early as possible for as many as possible. But at the same time, you need to have the evidence, you need to have the traction, the customers, the users, the prototype, to really make sure that you're going to be able to convince them to be able to get the actual money. I hope that helps. It's a very short answer.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alan. If I may jump in, just a quick question. Because like exist funding or any government funding, their main rule is like you should not start the work. All you need is like you need to have an application. That kind of like restricts us, because as an entrepreneur, you want to start building prototype, you want to start doing alpha, beta, but with like the governmental projects, one of the key requirement for them is like you don't start anything from you can start it. So what advice would you give us, like if there's any startup
I think it
founder?
depends on the type of funding, because normally you can start something, you just can't be founded. But maybe there's different conditions for public grants in India that I'm not aware of. But getting traction reduces risk. People don't want to give you money if it's just an idea. They want to say, okay, have you talked to customers? Have you validated the problem? Have you developed a prototype? Do you have like some feedback on the prototype? Maybe you get your first customers, but you're not ready, you're not founded yet. And that reduction of the risk is super important for people that give public money. Normally it has to be innovative. So if, for example, I got $500,000 for a research project based on technology that just came out, the HoloLens, and the idea wasn't developed, but we only developed an app. So the innovation was just in applying this technology to a new field of dementia. So I think you need to get started, and you also need to think, do you need the public money? If you want to get started and you want to run and you can get your first customer, why do you need public money? Look at Basecamp. They have a fantastic resource for their story. They took on no money, no public money, no nothing. They developed their product and they got customers, and then they make millions of euro every year.
Thank you very much, Alan. I think
I have one question. Like Alan, in IIIT Kottayam, we have few startups. They wanted to know get the funding from international level. Of course, Dare to Start is with us for helping us to get connected with Unternehmertum. I would like to know the angel investors that are there angel investors willing to support the Indian market in your network?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, normally they would have to maybe have an interest in the European market. So they can be based in India, but they need to be interested in maybe entering the German or the European market. But from what I understand, there's tons of angel investors and networks within India as well. I think it just depends on where the application is going to be and how big the potential could be. If they've got a great idea, I think it doesn't matter where it is in the world. It normally depends on the personal background of the angel investor. If they understand the Indian market, they might invest. But if they know nothing about the Indian market, then for them it's a risk, because how can they help you if they don't know the Indian customers and the Indian finance system, etc. So yeah, I think it's about finding the right match. Sorry, Jack.
I can also address this in a bit different angle. So Shajilin and Alan, so I want to say that it's also a property of networking. You know, like how good people you know, especially like Alan was talking about many good startups, right? These guys are into some kind of networks. So Unternehmertum is one kind of network. So when you get into these networks, I have seen in my network, like EIT Health Network, where Alan and I worked. So when I met investors, and I also supported a program where I invited like 5 startups from India, and then really exposed them to investors. And we invited them to Munich. Apur was one startup. These guys were really interested. They wanted to invest. There were some banks, there were some angels, there were some VCs. They want to invest, but they just didn't know the market. They were unable to study that. And I know one of the fintech startup got invested, but they had one German co-founder. So it's all about networking. How good you get to know them, how good they get to know you. So I think our like Day to Start will be providing a lot of opportunities, especially with Unternehmertum campus founders yesterday, and also we will open up doors for other countries of Europe. So if you can make more programs with networking, if you can get into different networks, getting angels is not a big deal. Actually, India has a lot of funding. I was surprised. We had a call with Hyderabad Angels, and they want to invest actually in European startups. They want to go until 2.5 crores. So I think the more doors we open up, the more investments we can bring or we can take out.
Yes, so I think this is an interesting topic. We can continue. But just to tell you that Dare to Start is already networking with the angel investors and potential VCs also. So stay tuned with us. And if you have startups, please get connected with us, and we are going to announce some program very soon. So again, thank you very much, Alan. It's wonderful to always listen to you.
Thank you for inviting me. It's amazing to see 74 people here on the Sunday. It's crazy. So fantastic job, everyone.
Thanks. And I would like to clap for all the speakers from the morning, like Sajulin and Roman and Alan. Thank you very much.